Hi, I'm Karcy.
I'm Derek.
And I'm Sam. And this is Unpacking Homelessness, the podcast where we take a deep dive into the issues surrounding homelessness in our communities. Let's get into it. Just a quick note to our listeners that this episode was recorded in October of 2025. Today on the podcast, we have Karen Cowling. She has spent over 30 years serving others through education and advocacy. Now the director at Mission Arvada, she oversees daily operations, leads volunteers, and connects people experiencing homelessness with vital resources, from healthcare to legal aid. A longtime volunteer with Severe Weather Shelter Network and former foster parent, Karen's heart for service and community earned her the 2018 Image Award from the Arvada Chamber of Commerce. Karen, welcome to the show.
Thank you. It's
good to be here. It's great to have you.
Thanks.
So could you get us started with sort of how this all started? What's your origin story? What got you so interested in helping others, and how do you lead with such compassion?
Well, that is a loaded question. It's been like my lifelong journey, I guess I would say. So I was grew up in a very challenging situation myself, and so I was sexually abused by my father and my uncle pretty much my entire childhood, and kind of blocked all that out and kind of just for survival. That's what the brain does, you know. And as I got older, actually, when I met my husband is when kind of like all my memories started coming back. And it was really rough. I mean, I was 25 and we were about to get married, and I just started getting all these flashbacks and nightmares and all kinds of things. And so I wound up having to go like into therapy. I was really not good. Suicidal. I was on medications, all of that kind of stuff. And my husband walked through that with me. And it took a couple of years of really intensive services for myself to like get to a place of healing. And then I started to work with others and other women that had been in situations like mine. And that was also healing as well. So that's kind of the beginning of what always put me in a place that I wanted to see people. Because I was one that was like a perfectionist, and nobody would have ever guessed that I had been going through that when I was a child or even a teenager. You know, I didn't tell anybody. It was all this big secret. So I just knew that there were people out there. Some are very obvious. You can see it on them that are struggling and suffering and, marginalized, but many others you would never know. So it's always like, for me, it's always been like everybody has a story and everybody has places that they've gotten hurt and challenged, and so to be aware of that, and so it just gave me a passion for wanting to help others, because God was really paramount in my healing and helped me to get to this place where I could actually use my pain for purpose in other people's lives. And then I would just say, fast forward, after we got married, we were going through that really rough time for the first couple of years. Then we were wanting to start a family, and at the time we were actually mentoring kids at Tennyson Center for Children, which is a residential treatment center here in the metro area, also at Mount St. Vincent's Home. We were just doing that, when we had no children or anything. But we were ready to start a family, and we went through like 6 or 7 years of infertility treatments, and they just didn't work. And then God led us to adoption. And so we wound up adopting three boys. Two of them we adopted at birth, and then the third son we adopted. He was one of the boys that we were mentoring at Tennyson Center, and he was older. So our younger two were 3 and 5. Oh, 5 and 8. They were 5 and 8 when we brought Carlos in to the mix. We had to get our foster care license, and we brought him in, and he had like a 10-year trauma history, and it was really rough. Yeah. So it's been a challenge. We've navigated the system for all three of our boys. They've all had some mental health issues and some addictions. A little over 4 years ago, we lost our middle son to an overdose. He was 23, and he was amazing. We loved him so much. And it was, I'm not the same person that I was before that, and I probably never will be. But I'm still grateful and thankful that God chose us to parent all three of these boys, as challenging as they have been. So,
Well, with as difficult of a upbringing as you had, then nobody would blame you if you went the other route. And instead, it seems like you're running towards those difficult situations. I mean, diving headfirst into adoption and all the complexities that come with that. Kudos to you, Karen. That's shows a lot about your character.
thank you.
Shows how deep these traumas run too. I mean, you had your son since he was a baby,
Yeah.
and even then, the addiction and the trauma sounds
Yeah.
like just couldn't be
Yeah.
avoided.
So, genetics, and trauma, even in Euro trauma for adoption is a real thing. But yeah, my middle son that we lost, he suffered and struggled with mental health issues from the time he was tiny. He was little. He had like social anxiety and some depression, and we tried lots and lots and lots of things to try to help him. Programs. We sent him out of state when he was in high school for 15 months to a teen challenge, and it was in Florida. We went and visited him like 12 times over that period of time, and he did great there. But when he got back here, he kind of got back into some of the same friends, and then we sent him to a Job Corps over by Grand Junction for finishing high school, and he got a trade certificate in carpentry, and he came home and lived with us as well as one of his friends. We're known for taking people in. And that industry unfortunately has a lot of drugs and alcohol, the trade industry, carpentry. So he actually worked on the Gaylord Rockies over by the Denver airport, IDIA. From groundbreaking to finish, he was
Oh,
on
wow.
the project. Yeah. And he got a few awards. He was a hard worker, very, very, he was a journeyman, and he got like awards for being, really a hard worker and doing jobs really well and stuff. So he was hysterically funny. Like, it's really quiet without him not here, because he was kind of like our entertainment. He had no filter, but he still made me laugh all the time. And he was very outgoing in terms of individual sports. Like, he was totally a Colorado boy, like mountain biking and hiking and backcountry and hunting and snowboarding and all that stuff, longboarding. So he was an artist, and he was a singer. He had a beautiful singing voice. So,
Wow.
but he just struggled mentally, and we tried lots of things, and yeah, he succumbed. So I understand mental illness, and on a very personal level, actually with Nate, of course, and with my other two as well. We've had a lot of struggles. My oldest has been in probably 19 or 20 rehab or sober living programs. And he struggles with alcohol and with his demons from his trauma history that he had from before. So yeah, my youngest has some mental health issues as well. He's doing really quite well right now, which I'm grateful for.
good.
He's going to UCD and studying 3D graphics and animation. He's 25. So we're supporting him through that, and he volunteers at the Mission
Oh, great.
as our IT person. So he's really smart with computers and stuff. So yeah.
That's really
Great. Let's
cool.
talk a little bit about the mission. So,
Yeah.
Karen, now you work primarily at the Arvada Rising in downtown Arvada in Old Town. Anyone who's listening is familiar. Can you tell us a little bit about how you were introduced to the Rising and then how you ended up sticking around there and
Yeah.
kind of leading the day shelter and some other programs too?
Yeah. So my husband and I had led a support group for foster adoptive families for 10 years while we were attending Faith Church. And we had probably 250 families in and out of our home over that 10-year period of time, sometimes as many as 50 people in our house at one time.
Wow.
The kids in the basement with older kids kind of watching them, and then we'd have the adults upstairs. And so it was a support group, faith-based, and we had like guest speakers, and Denver County and Jeffco County would send families to us to have support network because it was part of their training program. And then we had lots of different folks from Jefferson County and Arvada and the churches and stuff that were adopting out of foster care coming to our group. Anyway, that's kind of the backdrop. One of the people that was in our group was our former pastor at the Rising Church, because him and his wife had adopted 5 kids out of foster care. So they were in our group, and we had actually been doing the group for 10 years and we stopped. We felt like we were being led in a different direction. And we passed the baton to a younger couple. Our kids were older by then, and we had done it for some time. And so I hadn't seen the pastor for maybe a year and a half or so. And then I saw in the Arvada Press that they were working on opening an overnight weather shelter in Arvada, the Severe Weather Shelter Network. And my husband and I had always been involved in ministry, lay leadership. And I was working part-time as a speech pathologist at the time. And I saw that in the paper and I was like, hey, I want to help with that. So I went to this meeting that was at Arvada Covenant Church and ran into our old pastor there. And he's like, what are you doing here? And there was probably 150 people there interested in helping out. And I said, well, we're not leading the group anymore. And, I have an investment in people that are suffering and I want to help, the marginalized. Also, 2 of our boys had some bouts of homelessness during their young adulthood, older teen years. And so I just had a passion, for it, understanding that there's a lot that goes behind it in terms of homelessness. So he's like, well, if you're interested in doing this, you should come over to the Rising and see what we're doing. We just opened a day shelter. And I didn't even know what a day shelter was. I'm like, oh, okay, I'm sure I'll come by. And that was in the fall of 2017. And I came over probably a month or so later, and they literally had just opened the day shelter. And I've never left.
So you've been there for how long now?
8 years. 8
About
years.
8 years.
Yeah. So when I first went there, it was truly a day shelter, which is really about serving basic needs.
Okay.
So at the time, we were only serving maybe a dozen, maybe a couple dozen homeless that had come to the church, and they had been coming for a while, probably 5 to 8 years. The church had there in Old Town at the Rising had unhoused individuals coming to them for help, and they would just come to their doors and they would give them, we had a food pantry on Saturdays, and then they would give them clothes if they had them, or they would give them, food, etc.
Mm.
so that'd been going on for quite a while. And then um, I guess the numbers, which makes me laugh today, of the dozen or so people, the city of Arvada came to us to see if we would be willing to open a day shelter so that the unhoused could be inside the church instead of visible on the outside.
Mm.
Um, so we had to go through, our church had to vote. We're a congregational church, and they voted to allow us to run a day shelter out of the church. And so that's kind of how it started. And then again, just basic needs at that time. It was showers. We had somebody donate $15,000 so we could build out a shower. It's just a single stall. And then we had meals, 2 hot meals a day, breakfast and lunch, and we had clothing bank. So that was pretty much it when I first came on, when we first opened. And then probably about 2 years of that, and the numbers did start to grow. The G line was built, that comes from downtown, and it's literally a block away from us.
Is that a transportation line?
The RTD,
Okay.
the train. Yeah. So gradually, word started getting out, around the county, I guess, and around the municipalities around us, of the services that we were offering. And we started to get service providers contacting us to want to come in, and that just kind of started to explode. So like after the last probably 5.5 years, I would say, 6 years, we've gradually become a full-blown housing navigation center, in addition to being a day shelter with the basic services.
All operating out of a church.
Everything, because it breaks down barriers to have everything in one place. We're a low barrier shelter, that we don't require ID, pets are allowed, and we have everything on site to help people move beyond their circumstances now. We have mental health, JCMH comes in person, and we have a mental health kiosk where clients can get on demand anytime we're open. We have biblical counseling. This person is amazing. She's a psychiatrist and by trade, and she got a biblical counseling degree, and she meets with clients one-on-one twice on Mondays and Wednesdays. Everything that's provided in the mission is there's no fees or charges. We have the Colorado Coalition for the Homeless comes in on Tuesdays. They are our client's medical provider with the health outreach program. And so they do assessments, evaluations, referrals, wound care, medication management, pretty much anything and everything for our clients. On Tuesdays, we have dental services and dental hygiene services separately that come in monthly. Our dentist is amazing. I absolutely love him, Dr. Brian. He does surgeries and down the hall in our church. It's pretty crazy. And then we've got free legal services from the Christian Legal Society. They come in monthly and work with clients on legal issues.
Wow.
We have, I have my whole list here. The DMV comes to us to help people get, their IDs. We help them get all of their documents. So in order to get housing, you have to have an ID, a social security card, and a birth certificate. Sometimes you have to even have like a divorce certificate or a marriage certificate or all kinds of certificates that we have to pay for, to order those things. But we get all those documents so that they can get housed and or employment. We have and we store their documents at our site, and we also, so that they don't get lost or stolen and have to start all over again. We also have Safe Side Recovery is peer support specialists, and they are helping our clients get into rehabs and sober livings, which is amazing. And they're there every day, and they're right in the throes and just interacting, forming relationships, etc. And of course, we have our amazing case managers. We only have funding for 1.7 FTEs. of case management, and their ratio is like 1 to 150.
Whoa.
So 150 clients for every one case manager.
Yeah.
And you have funding for, sorry,
Only
it was 1.5
1.7.
case managers?
1.7
Case
FTE.
managers.
Yeah.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and then I will just say that, we have 14 staff members. We had to let one go recently because she had to get a real job and we couldn't pay her. And she was amazing. So that's been really difficult. I went to zero pay just recently. My husband's our finance director. He doesn't get paid. We are in it for ministry purposes, and I've only gotten a salary, and it's been a very low salary. 2 years out of the 8 years that I have been there. And that's because, we got some really good grants through COVID and ARPA, and that's when I was able to have a small salary. But those are all gone now. And so we're having huge budgetary issues in terms of funding our positions.
Yeah.
So out of the 14 staff, I think 9 are being paid, 8 are being paid right now.
Okay.
And 10 out of my 14 staff have prior lived experience of homelessness, incarceration, severe childhood trauma, those kinds of things that allow them to be able to relate on a very deep and personal level to what our clients are dealing with, if that makes sense. Yeah.
So it started with like 12, 15 people kind of congregating around the church. Services were developed to help those people outside of the church. The city asked you guys to move them inside into the church. I imagine because it was successful and that there was a crowd starting to happen. And so then you move inside of the church. And when you say 1.7 case manager, or there's 100 clients to every one case manager, you have a budget for 1.7 case managers.
150,
Are you guys serving about 170?
No. So let's see, my full-time case manager has 150 on her caseload. So it is 150 ratio for case management. But so we have about 75 people come in every single day.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And they are eating meals, they are showering, they are, everything's first come, first serve. And we have to have a volunteer to run like laundry, showers, clothing bank, all those kinds of things. So like, for example, showers, we get about 12 to 15 showers in a day because we only have a one stall shower, right? But so yeah, about 75 a day. Any given quarter, we have about 500 unique individual clients receiving services at our site. Last year in 2024, we served over 900 unique individual clients.
Wow.
Okay. And I saw that you guys housed 53.
Yeah.
Last year. Yeah, that's
a lot. 53 into permanent housing last year. This year, I think we're going to surpass that because the first quarter we got 20 people in. And then I don't have last quarter's stats right now, but I know right now we have 20 people in the queue to get.
So for our listeners outside of Colorado, Arvada is just northwest of Denver, so pretty big metro. And with the amount of people that you're serving, there's got to be, multiple other organizations like yourself in the area, right?
No.
Can you elaborate on that?
No, we're the only day shelter and housing navigation center, like drop-in emergency shelter in all of Jefferson County, which is an 8-city region.
That's a big area.
Yeah. And Jefferson County does not have any overnight sheltering options at all at this point in time, and never has. There's a program that is going to be starting up hopefully in the next 5 months or so. Off of Colfax in Lakewood, that is going to be a 103-bed, 365, 24/7 shelter. It will be the first of its kind in Jeffco, but it will not be a drop-in. It will not be an emergency shelter. It will be a program.
Oh,
So
okay.
everything that you're offering sounds just mandatory of just basic needs for unhoused individuals. And so what would they do without you there? As the one main resource in that big county area.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm not sure. I mean, we serve, we serve, primarily northern Jefferson County, so it'd be like Wheat Ridge, Lakewood, Golden, Edgewater, a little bit of Adams County, Westminster, and of course Arvada. Those are, and a lot of myths out there about, oh, people are coming from out of state, or they're coming from Aurora or Denver or Inglewood. The majority of our clients are from Jefferson County. Many of them are local. They have gone to our high schools in our area, Pomona, Arvada West, Arvada High School, Wheat Ridge High School. These are people that are just, there's such a spectrum.
Sure.
There's such a spectrum.
Sure, but
Yeah.
thank you for breaking down that stigma, because I think people do, when the community starts to kind of shy away from the resources that will help people coming in. I think a stigma is like, well, a successful program, which I would consider the Rising absolutely a successful program, despite its struggle to get funding, and its struggle to be able to support all of the volunteers and all of the people that are trying to help. All 14 people there helping 500 different people a quarter absolutely deserve a living wage, no doubt.
Right. Yeah.
So there's clearly this stigma in the community that they don't, or that the church is welcoming people to the area, and it's drawing in people from outside of the area to come into the area to seek services. And in that way, maybe there's some impression that the Rising is creating the homelessness problem in the area, or supporting it, or helping it grow. And so thank you for pointing out that these people are from the county. Like a lot of these people seeking services, they're here, whether they're congregated in Olde Town or not, they're around, they're in the area. So really by saying, can we stop these services? We don't want to, like we're attracting people no, like by stopping these services, we're really just leaving our community hanging. Like these are people who are, they're going to go find shelter or somewhere else. You'll still see them around. They won't be fed, and they won't have these services available. Exactly. And that's so sad to think that people turn away from them.
I've told many people that if and when we relocate, we are working on a potential relocation at some point. But there should be a plan for Olde Town, because we are very organized, very methodical. We have rules and expectations. Our clients have to go through orientation. If clients are not adhering to our rules and expectations, and a lot of them are community behaviors, they get trespassed for periods of time, or they might even get banned from our property. So we are a carrot in the area in terms of behavior. And, we also have our Mission Arvada Ambassador program, which I can talk about a little bit more, but the G line is right there for transit, right? Many of our clients, even if they're from Arvada or from Jeffco, have at times gone downtown for services. And they don't like to go downtown because it's scary. It's more dangerous. They like to be in the suburbs, and we're not just seeing them in Arvada. They're in Lakewood, they're in Wheat Ridge, they're in Westminster, they're all over, and they're in Littleton. They're coming out to the suburbs because they feel safer. And the library is right across the street from us. And, that's a lot of services. We're only open 4 hours a day. 9 to 1, and they go to the library. They use the internet there. They use the bathroom. They rest. And then we have open space parks, and it's a very desirable area for people to be. So I think I'm concerned about our relocation, just that I think that the carrot won't be there, and I think that the behaviors could actually get worse.
Yeah.
at least
When
initially.
you remove the incentive to behave well in that area. I know that's the case with a lot of neighborhoods that have missions and that have shelters and things. It's kind of incentive to behave well in that area so you don't get kicked out of that area and so that you can access those services still.
Yeah,
So I can see that. Mm-hmm.
But I kind of want to talk about like the spectrum of who we're serving,
Yes,
if that's okay.
please.
Absolutely. Tell us about the spectrum of the type of people that you serve.
Yeah. So I always get on my high horse and say they're not just lazy drug addicts. Okay. We're talking, every one of them has a story. Every single one of them. They don't, if there's some that might appear as if they choose to live that lifestyle, but there's always something behind it. If that's the case, it's fairly rare. We've gotten people housed that have been unhoused for 14 to 20 years, that long. It's about, they've often just given up on the system because it's so challenging and difficult. And that's part of the beauty of having what we have, a day shelter and housing navigation center with everything on site. It breaks down all barriers. They don't have to run across town to go to the DMV. They don't have to go to Jeffco Human Services to get their Social Security card. They don't have to, we have haircuts. We have, all that. We have everything that they don't have to, everything is in one place, right? So it breaks down barriers. They're not having to, we have our medical van. They don't have to go across town to go to the doctor when they're sick. They can come to us. They just need, they need friendship and they need people to help them with a path forward. It's very challenging, especially when you have, people. I mean, I would say the common denominators are trauma, 9 times out of 10, childhood trauma, veterans that have PTSD, abandonments, abuse, neglect, health issues, all trauma. And then being unhoused in and of itself is traumatic. There's a lot of crime that goes on. When am I going to eat next? Am I going to be able to get clean? My stuff got stolen. I got raped. I got beat up. There's so much trauma, like just being homeless on top of the original trauma that might have happened. And then unaffordable housing is a huge one. The fair market rent right now for our area is $1,789 a month for a 1-bedroom unit. And we have people that are on disability, elderly, or people with serious medical issues or mental health issues that are making like $800 or $900 a month. They can't afford housing.
Mm-hmm.
They're not just lazy drug addicts. There's real systemic problems. We have elderly living in their cars. We have a 99-year-old living in her car with her 70-some-year-old son, I believe. We have a couple others in their 80s living in their cars. They can't afford housing. One of them has cancer and is getting cancer treatment. 40% of my clients, I would estimate, and this may be higher, have aged out of foster care.
40% of people have aged out of foster care.
So I know what we did to support our 3 boys with their mental health issues, and their adoption-related issues. I mean, we did anything and everything we could possibly do, right?
Mm-hmm.
When you age out of foster care and you have nobody in this society,
right,
how do you become homeless? You wind up on the streets. And often you wind up using drugs because you're scared and you want to stay awake or you want to be warm. And you don't have good decision-making skills and you don't have a support system, you don't even have love, like the most basic need, right? And so that's a huge one for me. And, I have many, many that call me mom.
I can
They,
see that.
they don't have, we become their family, and
Yeah.
we help them get stabilized, and we help them learn and grow, and, yeah. So
And
that's,
feel seen. I mean, you're talking about one of the things that like popped into my head when you were talking about all the services you provide and how that breaks down barriers. Like I'm thinking about, so I know Sam right now, she's working on getting her driver's license because she lost it. And so she was telling me about how she's got to go
yeah.
from this place to this place to that place to this place. And that's
Mhm.
like with a person that like has the bandwidth to do that. But like take all of that, and that's just one document. Take all of that and put that on a person who already is struggling and already has been living this, this path that's been very, I mean, traumatic is really the only word that there is. And then say, oh, okay, but now you need to get a driver's license.
Yeah, can't.
Uh,
Or an
no,
ID.
like,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, an
So
ID, exactly.
yeah, it's mind-boggling, and
Yeah,
they actually need to be navigated. They need to
yeah,
have love. They need to have
right.
friendship. They need to feel cared for. Um, 70% of our clients identify as having a disability. And I
Mm.
mean, we're talking like I have had people, I have several in wheelchairs right now, but a couple at one time we had in wheelchairs with colostomy bags, and they're living outside,
I
you know?
can't imagine even living in a home with that kind
Yeah.
of in
Oh, I
that
know. I know.
struggle. Yeah, that's
Yeah, I mean, we have people with profound mental illness, in our system. They just wind up going to jail and then getting released, and then going to jail and getting released. And, we need a system that helps our people that have profound mental illness. We have supports in place at Mission Arvada to try to help them, but um, it's challenging. That
Right.
is very challenging. We have people with developmental disabilities, with autism, with diabetes, and imagine having, diabetes, and you have to do your insulin when you're outside, and it's supposed to be in a refrigerator, and then there's people, we have several with epilepsy right now. We just had one that had 3 seizures this week. So the list goes on. And when you have medical issues, um, being homeless is stressful, obviously. So it puts more pressure on your medical issues. Your body doesn't do as well,
well,
right?
stress is terrible on your
Stress,
physical
exactly.
body. Yeah.
Exactly. We have people that have been displaced because of injuries on the job. Lots of those become disabled because of injuries on the job. They lose their employment, they lose their housing, they wind up homeless. We
Mm.
have so many of those. Um, we have people displaced and becoming homeless because a primary caregiver of theirs died, and they'd have nowhere to go.
Right.
We have several stories around that. One was one from long ago, from when I was first there, maybe in the first few years. Um, Scott and uh, Scott and Jack. So Jack was 94 years old, his 60-some-year-old son, and they were living in a little car because their rent went up overnight and they couldn't afford it. And Jack's son, Scott, had schizophrenia, and he was always his caretaker.
Yeah.
So they came in, and we started, giving them their basic needs and loving on them. And Jack became my very good friend. He passed away about a year and a half ago. He was 99 years old.
Wow.
But we got them housing. They were one of our very first people that we got into housing. Yeah.
And what
Is
happened
Scott still
to,
in that housing?
yeah.
Sorry.
I think I haven't heard from him,
Mm,
but I
Mm.
think he has the housing based on his disability.
okay.
And I think he had a caretaker that was coming in, helping him some as well. So,
Yeah, you have such insight, Karen, into all of the holes in the system. All of the, because you're one organization and you're providing these incredibly robust resources, but like it's so clear that you're seeing like the healthcare system failure, the foster care system failure, the mental health system failure, the housing failure, the drug issues. Like you're such a funnel for seeing where we're failing as a society in so many different aspects.
yeah, but there's hope.
Yeah. Tell me about the hope.
Yeah, I mean, we just have so many good stories, you know. So at Mission Arvada, we have a need for all these volunteers, right?
Yeah.
I have over 300 volunteers. There's no way we could do what we do without the volunteer base, right? We have over 20 churches that help support us in the Arvada and Wheat Ridge area, and they support us with volunteers, tangible donations, drives, some funding, all those kinds of things. One of our requirements for orientation for clients is that they will help us run the day shelter. And not all of them can, obviously, but many can, and many do. And so I almost always have my laundry monitor, my clothing bank monitor, and my shower monitor are almost always clients. And
And tell us why that's important.
oh my gosh, it just gives them a sense of accomplishment, a sense of giving back, a sense of purpose. We become, kind of a little community, family-wise, we support them. They feel full, they get more full. I mean, my laundry guy, he's been doing our laundry for 3 years, and he's a veteran, lives in his vehicle, has a dog, has some
Wow.
PSD stuff. Yeah. But he systematically does our laundry every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday for 3 years.
Wow.
And
Just volunteering.
yeah, yep. Our
Sense of
current
purpose.
shower monitor, she was one that we got into a program called Safe Parking, which is at church parking lots. And she came to us and she had a car, so we got her into this safe parking program where they do some supportive stuff and allow them to park their car, on their property.
Mm.
And then she was able to get housing, and she just started volunteering with us. Her displacement towards homelessness was from a job injury. She was janitor, and she slipped and fell and fractured her elbow, and she couldn't do it any longer. I mean, it's very messed up. And I just talked with her this week because I just got an opportunity to meet her this week. Her name is Laurel. And so now she wants to give back. And so she's doing our showers 3 days a week for us. And she's on disability income, so she can't really have another job. But she's bored and she wants to help out, and she feels really good about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
What-
Karen, I'd love to dig more into the religious side of your organization. So I think you and Arvada Rising really embody all that is good about religion. If you see an issue and you actually dig in there and work on it to help people, that's wonderful. I think people know that we're at all-time low right now in terms of organized religion participation. The youth is not getting into religion, and there's a lot of reasons for that. There's a lot of negative religious organizations out there. So can you tell us a little bit more about what role religion plays in your organization, and is there any participation that you expect from those that you're helping, or are your volunteers often towards the members of the church?
So our mission statement is helping the poor, the homeless, the marginalized, and the forgotten with the love of Jesus Christ. So that is our mission statement. We have a lot of spiritual components in what we do at the mission, besides all of the tangible, practical things that we do. So they're offerings. They are not required. We are a no barrier. Anybody is welcome to come in, no matter what race, religion, creed, color, shape, size they are. But we have our biblical counselor that I talked about.
Mhm.
That's voluntary. We have discipleship class that our pastor teaches on Thursdays at the end of day shelter that clients can participate if they want to. We have a new pastor, by the way, Pastor Jared, and he's been with us about a year and a half now. So he had a history of homelessness and drug use
Oh,
from like 21 years ago.
wow.
Has quite a story
I'm
for
sure
sure.
Became
he
a
was.
pastor after.
Yeah, he's been a pastor
Wow.
he was at Open Door Ministries. He's still there, actually, downtown. And he started a school of discipleship down there. So he's still doing that, and he's only a part-time pastor because, again, funding, we don't have the funds to pay a full-time pastor. So he's about half with us and half with his other ministry that is fully fundraising supported. But I got totally off track. So he teaches our discipleship class. And then we have Bible study on Fridays during day shelter hours. We invite clients to come to church, and any given Sunday, we'll have a handful, anywhere from 2 to 8 people coming to church. We've had several of our clients join the church officially. We've had some get baptized. So in terms of trying to think, we have Eternal Recovery on Tuesdays, which our pastor leads as well, and that's actually during day shelter hours in the gym. And so it's where the clients eat and rest and stuff. So they do some worship music, and he does a short message, and then they do table conversations for anyone who wants to participate around overcoming addiction and recovery and different things like that. So,
And are your volunteers largely members of the church or just a?
no, we have a very, very small church, very tiny. We are really a missions church. We only have about 30 church members.
Okay.
Yeah. And
Which
so
is
then there
amazing.
comes in the body of Christ, which is we have 20 other churches that are supporting what we do.
Wow,
Yeah.
that's great.
And that's kind of a beautiful thing because we have lots and lots of folks that are fulfilling a call on their lives to help the unhoused and to help the marginalized. Our faith tells us that we're supposed to come to the aid of orphans and widows. And modern day orphans and widows look like foster kids aged out of foster care, right? They
Yeah.
look like people who've lost somebody and they can't function anymore. And
Yeah.
they get displaced. So yeah.
Are
Ugh.
the majority of the people in the church, members of the church, they help with the mission?
Not all, but quite a few. We have a lot of elderly in our
Okay.
congregation. We're an
Okay.
old church, and literally and figuratively, like
Mhm.
Yeah.
it's over 100 years old. The building. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's a
and you can tell.
beautiful
I mean, it's a
building.
beautiful building. Yeah, when you go to Old Town,
Yeah.
it's right there. You see it.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
Does this is kind of a hard question because it's a sad reality, I think, but does the mission of the church and kind of the nature of the Rising and how it is so focused on the homeless community and helping people, do you think that kind of deters? Because obviously there are Christians in the area. It's not a 25 member church because of the limited population. Is it that, do you find that families prefer to go to the other churches in the area that aren't so, I don't know how to, Darcy, help me out.
Yeah, I hear you're
Uh,
saying. I mean, unfortunately, it's a reality that homelessness makes some people uncomfortable. And there's a stereotype that those people are dangerous and that they are unpredictable. And sometimes that's true, but so are normal people. So it's like, you know, but I think your question is, do people sometimes choose not to go to that church or churches that are so involved in helping the marginalized because it makes them uncomfortable? Is that kind of what you're asking?
Yeah. So it's messy working with the population that we serve is very messy. It's not white suburbia, you know.
Yeah, that's a great way to say that, actually.
Yeah.
It's so yes, I think the answer to that is definitely yes. It's definitely been an impact. It's challenging. That is challenging because obviously if we had more church members, we could have more tithe and we could have more funding.
Yeah.
So yeah.
You did mention that
Welcome our, our unhoused community that are on zero income as our church members and membership, which is probably 25% of our people that are coming. So yeah, and I would just say the demographics of our church is also not in the affluent range whatsoever.
Right.
But you did mention that there are about 20 churches in the area that support in one way or another.
I love them and they're amazing. And there's no way that we could do what we do and accomplish all that we accomplish without all of the body of Christ and all of those churches coming in and serving and loving on people. And we have everything from, helping people move into apartments, because we collect all that furniture and we move them in. They get all their belongings, so they're not going in with a backpack on their back. That takes volunteers,
Yeah.
So from administrative support to supporting our case, running our front desk to, meals. Oh my gosh, I don't know how we do the meals. We served 38,000 meals last year.
That's wild.
Amazing.
Yeah, that's crazy.
That's wild.
So yeah, I got off on a little.
Yeah, but that's part of it, right? Like, I think that's sometimes that's important to just acknowledge. I think it's easy to be like, why doesn't everyone help to the extent that this church is helping? And why doesn't everyone, live the Christian values the way that this church is? And I think that's something, but it's also important to remember that, like, part of it too is doing as much as you are able and doing as much as you are comfortable. Right. And your church, your congregation is comfortable with that. And that's incredible. Yeah. And hopefully you can be a case study to help other churches maybe at some point go like, well, the Rising is doing this and they're safe and they seem to be really, we feel called to do that as well. But if they don't, they're obviously finding ways to help and support your church in other ways.
Yeah. And that's it. Like, we're all called as Christians to, serve the poor, help the underprivileged, come to the aid of, the marginalized. Sometimes that's not face to face. Some people don't have that calling or that capacity, if that makes sense, or the ability. They might be disabled themselves or whatever.
Or maybe it's triggering for them in some ways, something that they've been through.
Small children, they don't have the capacity, But if you're not able to do it face to face, you should be donating. You should be donating tangibly and or financially to help support the mission, because we're all called to do the work. The work takes money and it takes tangible donations. So
yeah. Do you find it frustrating that, kind of as Derek alluded to, religion is, I think, being weaponized in some ways right now, it feels like. And is that frustrating to you to feel like maybe, I know you've mentioned that you feel like the Christian religion is really, they have a responsibility to help those that are marginalized and are poor. Can you talk a little bit about your own personal beliefs about sort of all that's going on right now?
I think it's sad. I personally don't let it get to me a whole lot because of my own personal relationship with Jesus and just, trusting him that he sees all of this. He's bigger than all these problems and all of the strife and the dissension and the blaming. There's a whole lot of spiritual warfare that is going on. We are doing God's work. We are the hands and feet of Jesus at Mission Arvada. And, we have unbelievers that are volunteers as well. And we have community members that don't go to church. But they see miracles every day at Mission Arvada. They see incredible things happening, and God's hand is on it. But the enemy of our souls, he does not like what we're doing. He does not like us helping to minister and save people from their demise of the plans that he has for them, because he's got plans too. So there is a lot of spiritual warfare, but yet I know that my Jesus is stronger. He paid the price, and I'm just gonna keep serving him, and he's gonna keep providing. It's not always easy, but I always say that he's never late but seldom early about God. There,
I like that.
yeah, yeah, because we're on the fringe a lot. We're on the edge.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. I mean, you're doing the most important work with very little resources and, with sometimes pushback from people who maybe don't understand the value, or maybe they haven't been there. Maybe they can't relate to these sorts of stories, these sorts of problems. But a lot of what you've been saying is like a lot of people get into these situations because something totally random and unexpected happened. And I think with, we've talked about that. We've talked about housing, yeah, the housing shortage and just like the housing prices and inflation and all of that. I think more and more people are going to unfortunately be experiencing some of this, or at least know people who are going to be experiencing
Oh,
some of
they are.
this.
Yeah, I think many people in our society are literally
Yeah.
one paycheck away, one health crisis away, one rent raise away from one job loss away from becoming unhoused. We hear all those stories all the time. I mean, like I said, the number of youth out of foster care, the number of elderly that we're seeing,
Mm.
um, it's just a travesty, you
That's
know?
heartbreaking to live your
Yeah.
whole life and to work for this country and to, veterans. I mean, like that's a whole nother thing, but like to live a whole life where you were able to sort of make things work. You were able to do the thing. You had a family. You did the American dream. And then in the very, your golden years, essentially, you're left struggling because this world wasn't set up for you. I mean, it's barely set up for us, to be honest.
Yeah, it
But
is.
like,
It's yeah, it's not an easy journey, you know.
yeah.
Um, but then when you have a lot of strikes against you,
Hmm.
whether it be health or mental health or trauma or whatever it might be,
Hmm.
I
Lack
mean,
of support,
I
lack
mean,
of
I
family.
literally could have been, based on my childhood, I could be dead right now. I could have become a prostitute. I mean, the statistics on the type of trauma that I went through are not good.
Yeah.
And so I know that. I understand like where people can go down that pathway, these two different options. And for me, it's because of what God's done in my life, it's not a choice for me. My only choice is to serve him and to glorify him in the healing that he did in my life and is doing in others' lives, including my living sons, that I'm believing for. Um, and to serve, because I have knowledge and I have power within me from what I've been through, and I can't imagine not doing this. A lot of people think I'm crazy. Like, why would you choose to do this for free?
You're like,
And
I don't have a choice. I have
I
to.
literally have to. And
Yeah.
I feel like at some level we all need to look at that within
Hmm.
ourselves. What can we do to make a difference in our world while we're here? I mean, we don't have unlimited days. We don't know what's around the corner. We don't know what happens tomorrow. You know what I mean? Let's make today count, and let's do something to make a difference in people's lives, at
Mm.
whatever level that is. There's so many great nonprofits out there.
Yeah.
We're just one of them, but do something to help, do something to make an impact.
Yeah. What would you say to people who maybe are in the camp of that people experiencing homelessness are a nuisance, or they're what debunked as a lazy drug addict. What would you want them to see or to know about this population?
They're just people, just like you and me. And they've had in a lot of cases, they've had a lot more difficulties and challenges and roadblocks in their lives than you have. And that we're here for human connection. And if you would give people a chance to hear their stories and just see them for who they are, every single one of them has a story. Even the worst drug addict or drug dealer, honestly, has a story. And a lot of times it's not pretty, but there is hope. I mean, there's hope. And we're not supposed to judge other people, We're supposed to love people and love each other and support each other, no matter what we might smell like or look like or be carrying on our body or have a cart or live in a mansion. Even people in mansions have struggles. So yeah, I guess that's part of what I would say.
That's so beautiful, Karen. I thank you so much for doing the work that you're doing. I know that you talk to media all the time and you're always sort of helping people understand what the Rising is doing and help people understand why it's important and why organizations like this need to exist. But I don't know that you always are able to open up about your own personal story or your own personal motivations for doing this work. I thank you so much for being as vulnerable as you've been with us today. I thank you so much for the work that you're doing. I can't imagine what it would be like to see so clearly people struggling day in and day out, but you somehow every day put on a smile and you show up and I know that those people call you mom for a reason. I know that you're making such a big difference in their lives and I thank you so much. I'm excited to see what happens and where you guys are going. I hope that the community can rally and see all the support that you guys are providing. Um,
Thank you.
you're just amazing. You're amazing.
It's God in me.
Mm. That's
We like
amazing.
to talk about breaking cycles here. And I really truly believe that the work that you're doing, those 500 people that come to that church every quarter, you are helping break some cycles in their family and in their story. And I do believe that everybody that gets help, that's one less person in the future that's going to struggle, because that's one less child that they're going to have and that they're going to neglect and they're going to abuse in the same way that they were, in the same cycles that were repeated in their family. And if we can help these adults heal and help the child that lives inside of these adults heal, then we can protect a future child from going through it yet again. And I do think that the work that you're doing is helping so many people break those cycles in their family and in their life and teach them how to love and how to love themselves. And this is going to have dividends going forward in the future, past your time.
Yeah, absolutely.
Your cloud effect, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Oh my gosh, this was such an amazing conversation. I feel so emotional. I'm gonna have to like
I
shake it
know.
all off after this.
Thank you so much for having
Yes.
me. Yeah,
Thank you so much.
you're right. I do a lot of advocacy and sharing about our mission and what we do and why. But I definitely don't share the details of my own stuff a whole lot. So, I mean, I have, but not frequently.
Yeah, I understand. And when you're someone who's as empathetic and as like compassionate as you are, and you're listening to stories all the time that are just, you know,
Unbelievable.
unbelievable. Right. Right. I can understand that. But thank you again for all the work you're doing. Thank you again for being here. We would love to have you on again at some point and catch up and learn where the Rising is going and maybe be seeing your new space at some point.
Yeah, that would be great. And I would like to invite you guys for a tour sometime.
Yes, we would love
Absolutely.
that. We
I've
would
been
love
thinking this
that.
whole time, I really want to join the volunteer crew and give whatever time I have. Yeah, and Derek's in Washington, but Carsey and I are here, and I know that she's
Yeah.
thinking what I'm thinking, and you just got 2 new volunteers for
Totally.
sure.
Totally.
We'll be
Yeah.
in touch.
Yeah,
Great.
that
Good,
sounds
good.
great. I hope you have a beautiful weekend. Thank you so
Thank
much
you.
for spending your time with us today.
Absolutely. You
Thanks
guys
so much, Karen.
bless you.
Thank you
Bless
so much,
you.
Karen.
Bye.
Bless you.
Bye.
Bye.
All right, let's unpack that. Wow. Karen is just an incredible person. I am so grateful that she took the time to talk to us today, and I'm so grateful that she wanted to open up about her own personal experience and her own journey and what's led her to continue making the impact in the community that she's been making. Her compassion is just so inspiring. I mean, to see people struggling day in and day out, people who are genuinely struggling, and to still wake up every day, put on your shoes, and go do the work is really so inspiring and so beautiful.
The amount of resources that church offers too, that
Yeah.
I think, yeah, Sam, you kind of got into it a little bit about how adding that level of convenience and, obviously a lot more than that, taking away the complexity that goes along with needing to know what steps to take for certain things, just to have one place that you can go to get your basic needs met from when you're not in a good place. That's just wonderful.
Removes a lot of barriers, like she said, because you don't have to go from here to there to find all the things. And they do document storage. So they actually like store these things for people. Yeah. And like when we were talking to Deb, who does outreach, she was saying that even if she can get somebody to an office to apply for housing, by the time, a year rolls around or however many months later, when they get that call and they're in queue, in the front of the line, by that point, they've gotten a different phone number, or they've lost the paper they were supposed to hold on to, or something's happened to kind of cipher that connection between their application and then the point in which they could actually get into housing. So that really stood out to me, that they even do document storage.
Yeah, I never even heard of that before, but it's so smart and necessary.
It just seems like when she sees a need, she just figures it out, She's like, oh, dental. Okay, we need a hygienist in here. Oh, people are coming in with black fingers from the cold. Like, we need a doctor in here. She partners with the coalition, Colorado Coalition for the Homeless comes in, and she had touched on the library being across the street, which we knew. And then from speaking with Clarice, we know that there are resources offered there too. Yeah, the location, the resources, Karen, the staff is just so monumental and helpful for the community. And it's so sad that there are community members that don't see it that way, that think that they're attracting this population. And they're not. They're clearly helping.
Well, they are attracting, but because it's there, and they should attract that. And it's I don't know. I don't think that there's enough light shed on the fact that these preventative services, just from a dollar and cent standpoint, that's going to keep people out of taking up the emergency room places, and it's cheaper to put money towards this rather than that's the alternative. There's not these preventative services.
Yeah, and having people, volunteer there who have had lived experience, they're able to give insights into this is what we need. When I was on the street, or I still am, and these are the resources that I haven't been able to access. These are the barriers that I keep coming across. So maybe I'm sure that they're just so collaborative, considering how extensive their resources are. I imagine she's getting input from so many different people on what is needed. And one of the things we weren't able to get into as much as maybe I would have liked was the overnight shelters, especially the cold weather shelters, because it's almost the end of October here in Colorado, and it gets extremely cold in the winters. And I don't think that there is an overnight shelter that's going to be available this winter. It sounds like. I don't know if Mission Arvada is going to be able to step up and open their doors in the way that they have in the past. That takes a lot of funding, which it sounds like they're struggling with. But she had mentioned to us previously in a different discussion that a veteran who was in his 30s froze to death across the street at the library across from the Rising, and that was one of the catalysts for her to say, like, that's not going to happen again. That's not going to happen on our watch. And so then they opened the overnight shelter last winter. So it's people are dying in Colorado because of the cold temperatures.
Yeah. And it happened so fast. The temperature drops so fast here.
So
It's not
fast.
like, I mean, as far as planning somewhere to go or enrolling somewhere and waiting in line, like that's not an option for these people. When it hits 5 degrees outside, they need somewhere to go then and there,
Mhm.
And another thing about that vet who died from cold weather exposure, she also said that he was a student of Arvada High School,
Mm.
So he's a native to Jefferson County. And again, just saying that to emphasize that these aren't strangers. These are people in our community. I mean, these are people from our community who are raised in our community who I feel we have a responsibility as a society to help. And where is the ball getting dropped? Like, where is society failing these people so hard that people who slip and fall at their job are now their lives are upended?
That's all it takes.
That's all it takes. No family. If I didn't have a family, I would 100% be dealing with the same struggles, no doubt about it.
Yeah.
Mental illness, these traumas that she herself survived. There's so many circumstances that people through no fault of their own just find themselves in, and just God bless the freaking Mission Arvada for being there to help people when that happens. Because it's the truth is, if the mission was not there in Olde Town, these people would have nowhere to go for these services.
Mm-hmm.
Period. Not right now,
Yeah.
There's this expression that hurt people hurt people. And I fully believe that. I also fully believe that you cannot truly love somebody else until you've learned how to love yourself. But when Karen was talking, the whole time I was just thinking, healed people heal people, and because she put in that hard work to heal herself, look how many people have been able to seek help and to get help and to be healed. I mean, housing 53, anywhere between, I think even the first year they housed 24 people. 5 or 6 years later, they're up to 53 people. That's hundreds of people who have now a roof over their head because of her work. And I am going to give her the credit. I know that there's a lot of people there's a lot of people involved, and it takes everybody, and I give everybody credit, but I especially in my heart give her so much credit for that.
Well, and the fact that she's only been compensated for 2 out of the 8 years that she has been doing
Exactly.
this. I mean, there is no greater testament to her faith or to her calling that this is what she needs to be doing.
Yeah.
It's just amazing.
Well, and on the funding front too, that alone's reason to give to them, so they can make enough money to pay her something. But also, like we didn't get into with this, what it takes to transition from a daytime shelter to an overnight shelter. Just think of the logistics that go along with that, because just getting together all of the setting up the beds, the bed sheets, the tables, for the volume that they're dealing with, like that's not a little thing. It's understandable that if they're not getting enough funding, sounds like they have enough volunteers, but why they can't open for the winter. So
Yeah,
I don't know. I definitely want to.
The utilities too, right? Like you have to pay more water and more electricity and more food and more blankets, and like it's just such a big deal to have a shelter. And they are, like I said, like they're the funnel. They are catching people from the system that are that are struggling. And one of the things also we didn't get into as much as we would have liked to, but I do want to touch on it now, is the Mission Arvada Ambassador Program. So yeah, it's a pretty awesome program that they've got. So basically, volunteers can sign up to be trained. There's a virtual training that goes along with this. It's 2 to 3 people at a time that go out and they do outreach in Olde Town, Arvada. So they'll help clean up, keep the city clean. They'll offer food, water, services to people who are experiencing homelessness in the area. You get trained on de-escalation techniques and trauma-informed care. And it's just it's just another way that Mission Arvada is thinking about the outreach and thinking about, we know we're impacting the community, and even if we're not impacting the community, we are a part of this community, and we're a gear in this cog, right? So what else can we be doing to help take care of this community? And so if people are interested in that, it's just another really interesting way that they're helping. And so you can go to their website, which I believe is www.arvadarising.com, and through there you'll be able to see Mission Arvada and all the things that they are doing. If you are interested in donating your time or donating your resources, that is definitely a great place to do that. Oh, man, I feel like I need to go for a long walk in nature after this talk and just think about everything and sort of soak it all in. I think what you just said, sis, about healed people heal people. It'd be so interesting to be able to have that bird's eye view one day of the impact that was made just on different generations, just based on seemingly small choices that we make. You know what I mean? Her choice to, instead of, turn into to take her experience and go negative with it, but instead to turn it around and do something positive. Like you said during her interview, it's going to ripple out for generations. And I know that the God of her understanding is going to be incredibly proud of her, and I think she's going to be, and she is incredibly proud of herself, I hope, because we're all proud of her.
Yeah.
She has a lot to be proud of.
Yeah, she's amazing. Okay, well, another episode unpacked.
All right.
You guys have a great weekend. Bye.
Bye, everybody.
All right. Bye.
Thanks for listening to Unpacking Homelessness. This episode was produced and edited by us. Our theme song is by Eric Lawson. You can find more of his music at soundcloud.com/eelaws. If you or someone you know would like to contribute to our show, get in touch with us at unpackinghomelessness@gmail.com. Until next time.